let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
All right, so these are really easy to use, very simple to set up. There are two main systems that you can run it in. There's a non-stop, which means that it's going to be constantly circulating the water to make sure it's at ultra pure levels of 18.2 megohm. Or there's an interval, and what the interval does is every 30 minutes it's going to rinse, but it's not going to be running non-stop. So where you use that is when you come in during the morning, you set it to non-stop so that you can have on-access, on-demand water. And then after 30 minutes, it'll go into that sleep mode if you don't use it for 30 minutes, and that's the interval. So the idea there is that you're not working the pump 100% of the time, it's only as needed. With the interval, the other benefit there is you can leave it on overnight, over the weekend. You don't want to turn these off. You want to basically leave these on and let them continue to maintain itself. And when you come in from the weekend, say it's Monday morning, what you'll do is you go into the menu, and then you'll cycle to rinse, and then you'll press enter. And what it'll do is it'll start rinsing internally to make sure that there's no water in the tubes or in the lines that is not 100% pure. And so it's a 30-second cycle. It's a great way to kind of start off the morning, make sure you come in, make sure that the water's ready to go. And then once it's done with the rinse, it's going to be ready for use.
So it counts down, it makes it so you can't do anything until it's...
Correct. And again, what it's doing is it's protecting you so that you don't have dead water in the system. Because if you leave it in interval overnight, over the weekend, it will be doing that every 30 minutes. It's going to cycle through, but it's good to kind of come in, make sure you'll see that the resistance is going to go down for a few minutes, and that's because it's cycling everything through and making sure it's ultra pure. Then when you're ready to go, you leave it in non-stop. You can cycle and just have it do a volumetric dispense. And the way you do that is you press enter, and you'll see the cursor right here, and you can move that value up or down. So if you wanted to do a 1 liter or a 1.5, there's an arrow here on the UV that you can cycle to there. So you can add your volume, and then what you do is you push enter, and it will dispense that volumetrically. If for some reason you want to stop because maybe you forgot your beaker, you can just push this top button, the fill button, and it will stop automatically. The other option is if you want to just have that on your non-stop, you can press it twice for on demand, and then once to stop. It does display value of the resistance as well as the temperature, as well as value of the volume that has just been dispensed. There's a push button here for UV. You turn that on and it will activate the UV light, which obviously is going to help with your different types of contaminants that could be in the water. So that is how to use it. Very simple, very straightforward. There are some menu options in here. You can look at the feed water. The incoming feed water actually is very pure right now at almost 11.5 megohm. So that's very good DI water coming in. Kudos there. The other thing it's going to have is the limit value feed, and that's if the feed water goes below a certain resistance, then it's going to tell you that the feed water is bad and it will stop. The idea there is if there's something upstream from this system that is in error that needs to be replaced, DI cartridges of that or something, then it'll let you know so that you don't foul the cartridges here, which are going to be much more expensive than a large DI system in terms of the volume that could potentially go through there. There is a limit value purity, so if it can't get above 10 megohm and you can adjust this, then it's going to alarm and tell you that you need to change out the cartridges. And that's there to make sure that you're not continuing to think that you're getting ultra pure water that's nice and polished. And actually with that feed water, it would probably never come on at that value. But it does give you that opportunity to have some checks and balances in there to make sure that you're delivering ultra pure water at all times. There is a timer on the UV light so that you know after a certain number of hours the UV intensity will start to degrade. It does also log that intensity, so it tells you where that UV light is in terms of its lifespan. Gives you an opportunity to think ahead, order UV lights as needed, and make sure that you have those on hand. And then obviously there's serial number and cartridges, so when you change out the cartridge, you're going to want to match that up, the serial number, so that you know there's traceability, things of that nature. And then there's that rinse cycle that we mentioned earlier. There's a disinfection, so when you change out cartridges, what you're going to want to do is there's a disinfection syringe and a blank cartridge system, and you'll put that in. There's some easy directions where you fill that cartridge with your water, you use that disinfection, and it will make sure that everything inside the unit is nice and clean before you put a fresh cartridge in. So just kind of part of the maintenance. And then if you want to check error history, things like that, it does log that so that you have time, date, stamp on that. And then if you have it set up to a printer. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Very easy to use, very user friendly. The cartridges will be changed out up here. If I could reach it. Actually, let's do it. So there's a button on the top that gives you access to the cartridges. They are just a simple quick connect right here. You push the two valves down. Obviously you want to release pressure in the system. There is a protocol to make sure that you aren't doing it while it's pressurized, because you'll end up with water all over the place. And then behind that is the UV light. So that would be where you would change out the UV light. So again, with the cartridges, it's a simple two-point connection. You would change that out, obviously run the disinfection cycle, and then when you put the new one on, 2 quick connects right back in, and then you go through the protocol to start up. So very easy to use, again, very user-friendly in terms of maintenance. Just goes right back on. There's a small screw right there. And it pops right back in.
Any questions?
And then this does extend out. Easy to use.
I have a question. So you said you can set it for a certain volume to come out. If you stop it, does it automatically reset it to the?
No, it's
or
gonna.
You hit it again and then it spits out the remaining 5?
So no, it wouldn't. It would start all over. So if you, right now it's set to 2 liters, we stop it. It's going to reset when you push the button again, and then you'd start all over. And then it resets. And then to change that volume, you just come in and you press the enter button, and then you can toggle those volumes. So for instance, 1/2 liter. The volume is going to be mostly accurate. I wouldn't say that it's Class A glassware, but it's going to be thereabouts. And then you can set it back to interval where it's going to change, go back into the recycling. And then yeah, if you leave it for 30 minutes, it's going to start to just cycle every 30 minutes for, I think it's 30 seconds. It goes through the system.
Is it just cycle within itself, or does it?
Yep. So you've got 2 lines. You'll get some rinse that will come off. That it's going to get some of the initial discharge up here. But for the most part, that's just going to go down the drain, and then it'll recycle in between the 2 lines. So that's why we have 2, is so that you can go in and then back up. So you don't have dead water in here that's at 10 megohm.
So you got a supply, then 2 that circulate
right,
back
and
forth.
then your rinse discharge. Yep.
For maintenance, everything that the owner, so once we walk away, the owner will, it'll tell them sort of when filters need to be replaced. It's very, it communicates with the user that things need to be replaced, and then they would contact Thermo to buy consumables.
Right, and I've got a quick start guide too that I brought that I can leave behind. I also have it in a PDF format that has a list of the consumables, as well as some of the easy things as far as maintenance and usage. So it's got all the consumables here: final filters, cartridges, UV lights, and then the cleaning solution that I recommended, and then just simple operations. And again, I've got that in PDF, that way it's not printing off thousands of pages. But yeah, very easy to use, very, very straightforward. And you'll see too, when the cartridges start to get, the resins start to get consumed, you'll see it start slowing down when it comes out of that rinse cycle, where it'll take a little bit longer to get up to 18.2 megohm in terms of the purity. So you'll start to see that, and you get kind of a feel for, we're 3 months out, 6 months out. But a lot of it depends obviously on the feed water coming in and then the total volume that's being used. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thanks.